ID in the D in the town all day. ID in the D in the SEA. ID in the D in the town all day. ID in the D in the SEA.
Hello and welcome to episode 488 of the fabulous Peltoncast, sponsored by our friends at Pagliacci Pizza. I'm your co-host, Kevin Pelton.
And I'm Tristan Carcino.
And we're coming to you in separate locations today. I'm in Seattle, Washington, home of the AL West champion Mariners.
And I'm coming to you from Renton, Washington, home of the Super Bowl 48 champion Seattle Seahawks.
And the DVOA leaders, head of a DVOA Bowl this upcoming Sunday against the LA Rams. We'll talk about that and preview it in great detail at the end of the pod. But unfortunately, have to start this on kind of a somber note with a weekend that saw two monumental passings in Seattle sports. On Thursday, we got the tragic news that UW goalkeeper Mia Hammett had passed away at age 21 after battling stage 4 SMARCB1 deficient kidney cancer. And then on Sunday, we learned that Lenny Wilkens, a titanic figure in Seattle sports, is a player, coach, executive, broadcaster, really every public-facing role that you could possibly have during his time with the Seattle Supersonics. His multiple stints had passed away at age 88. So, two huge losses. Let's start by talking about Mia Hammett because, this is a story that we've followed since she was first diagnosed with stage 4 SMARCB1 deficient kidney cancer. This isn't an ultra rare thing. Per Cairo FM, Hammett was just the 14th documented case of this disease, which typically affects individuals with sickle cell trait. And unfortunately, part of what makes it so tragic is that it typically affects younger people and is very difficult to diagnose because of the symptoms that it presents. She initially thought that she was just under the weather before, doctors were able to sort of diagnose by exclusion some of these other potential explanations. A native of Marin County in Northern California, Hammett was coming off a breakthrough junior campaign when she got this diagnosis. She had finished third nationally in save percentage and was named to the Big Ten All-Tournament team as UW reached the Big Ten semifinals a year ago and then played the shootout as the Huskies beat Utah State in the opening round of the NCAA tournament. And this, her untimely passing comes as a backdrop to, as we talked about last week, the Huskies playing this season in her honor, with her still on the roster and very much as part of the team, even though she was not physically able to participate in the games. And this past weekend, as we previewed, was the Big Ten tournament. And without her, UW completed a run to its first ever Big Ten tournament title on Sunday. The first game they played after the news, they beat number 15 Wisconsin 2-1 on Thursday in St. Louis, then went to a shootout in the final against number 9 Michigan State and dominated it 4-1 with goalkeeper Tanner Ijems making a pair of saves similar to the 3 saves that Hammett had in the quarterfinals, I believe, last year in the Big Ten tournament. UW had Samaya Smalls named most outstanding player of the tournament after she scored a pair of goals. And then on Monday, it learned that they are seated 4th in the Virginia bracket and will host Big Sky champions Montana on Saturday at 7 p.m. with the winner to face the winner of Dartmouth at Arkansas. So undoubtedly going to be a very emotional night at UW's Husky Soccer Stadium, as you have the combination of the excitement about this NCAA tournament game contrasted with, the somber news and wanting to pay tribute to Mia Hammett and everything that both her life and her battle against cancer meant to the University of Washington, to the athletic department, and to the city writ large.
Yeah. I mean, I think even beyond, obviously UW soccer is the reason that we know about the story on a larger scale, but obviously it's a devastating thing that can happen to anybody, especially at that age. And in context of Lenny Wilkens, who was able to lead this long, full life, and something that's been taken away from her or anybody in that situation. So, the games that UW is playing right now on the field are a great tribute. And I also hope that UW is capable of finding a proper long-term tribute to her as well.
I think so. I don't doubt that. And, we haven't yet heard details of memorial service, but I'm sure that's going to be a public and emotional thing. I was recalling back to when I was at the celebration of life that they had for Curtis Williams after he passed away when I was on campus. So Lenny Wilkens, as you sort of alluded to, died Sunday at age 88. Um, this is somebody who has been really synonymous with Seattle basketball, and his accomplishments as certainly a player and also as a coach, including leading the Sonics to the title in 1979, were before our time. So we really first got to know Lenny as a coach of other organizations, with the Cleveland Cavaliers throughout much of the 1980s, leading them to the Eastern Conference Finals and their repeated matchups against Michael Jordan in that era, and then moving in 1993 to take over the Atlanta Hawks and leading them to a run in the Eastern Conference where they were contenders, and sort of culminating in becoming the all-time winningest coach in NBA history. His accomplishments well documented in terms of being not only one of the 75 greatest players in NBA history during the 75th anniversary season 5 years ago, but also one of the 15 greatest coaches. And that kind of combination just being unmatched in NBA history as a Hall of Famer in both regards. But, even beyond his playing and coaching career, because of the fact that Lenny maintained a home here in Seattle, because of the fact that his foundation and their support of the Odessa Brown Clinic in particular was so meaningful. And then the role that he played, as a broadcaster, as a member of the front office during the Sonics' final years in Seattle, and beyond, just a visible representation of Seattle basketball. And one of the thoughts I was struck by is I'm glad that Lenny was able to live long enough to see the fitting tribute of becoming the first player with a statue outside of Climate Pledge Arena when that was unveiled in June. And the number of former Sonics players and coaches who came back to be a part of that and show Lenny, what he meant to this city, and sort of give him, that love and appreciation right back that he has given all of us over the many years that he's been involved in Seattle basketball.
Yeah, and it's interesting to think about just how short of a stint it was as a player coach here, but obviously he reached the highest heights that the organization ever reached. And it also goes to show that in that very short period of time, because of all the off-court uh, participation and involvement he had in Seattle basketball. Lenny Wilkens was a fixture of Seattle basketball for us growing up when he had no official job or role necessarily within the Sonics in our lifetime in that period, right? And it was basically just like Lenny is here and he is present. He clearly loved the city and loved being involved in basketball in the city. And I think that's a huge testament to, what basketball has meant to the city of Seattle, and that he's somebody who had no history here, but end up, he passed in Seattle, and he's somebody who really made a home here after playing here for those handful of seasons. So he was honestly probably the most important figure in basketball in Seattle history.
No, yeah, I think without question. And yeah, it sort of speaks to, like, when you think about what sports can mean to a community, obviously there is this element of sort of bringing us together to celebrate, accomplishments and mourn and things like that. And he was, huge in that with the 79 championship and what that meant to the city at that point. But it's also sort of, without the Sonics existing, Lenny Wilkens never comes to Seattle. There's no reason he would. As a native of Brooklyn who spent most of his playing career in St. Louis dealing with segregation and racism and things we can never imagine during his time there. He's written about this at length in multiple biographies and talked about those experiences. But basketball brings him to Seattle, and Lenny never leaves. Stays here, for good for the remainder of his life for so many decades. And, again, his support, his Seattle is a better place because of Lenny Wilkens. And I can think of no greater accomplishment. That's a much bigger thing than, even winning a championship or being a Hall of Famer. So I did a few years ago have a chance to speak to Lenny at length. We did a podcast, two-part podcast series on the 79 championship on the 40th anniversary of that. So I'll link that in the post notes. It's certainly always a good listen. And tragically, we've seen a number of the players who were key parts of that championship team have now passed away, and Lenny Wilkens now joining them as their coach. All right, so somewhat happier news. Let's get to the toast this week. We start with a congratulations to Cal Raleigh, who was named the AL Silver Slugger at catcher. Some bigger awards still out
Close
there, I
one.
believe, this week. Oh, how did Salvador Perez do this year? And congrats to Christian Roldan, who was named to the MLS Best 11, the first time that he's been so honored. A well-deserved testament to what an important player Roldan has been throughout his career, and particularly this season with the kind of injuries the Sounders had. He was, the constant in the rock for them a lot of this year, and it's been exciting to see him get involved with the USMNT because of the success that he's had. And lastly, this week, we're saying farewell to Dave Villwock, who announced his retirement from unlimited hydroplane racing last Thursday at age 71. Villwock leaves as the all-time leader in H1 Unlimited race wins with 68, High Points Championships with 10, as well as a record 11 APBA Gold Cups, having claimed his last of those last August at Water Follies. So, we sort of mentioned that with the return of Jimmy Shane to BWR Racing, which has become kind of the dominant sport team in the sport in the last year, wondered what that meant, and now the opening is obvious, because Villwock, after this entire second career after he retired for the first time, about a decade ago, now finally ready to call it quits at age 71.
He'll be back.
Oh, you're predicting it?
There we go.
The Jordan Wizards
Yeah.
return?
Maybe more successful than that. No, I don't know. Actually, Jordan was good on the Wizards, right?
I mean, he scored points. I don't know if I'd go so far as to say Jordan was good on the Wizards, or that it's a thing I wish to remember happening, or as opposed to just sort of retconning it out of my memory. So, all right, we figured we'd start this week by recapping the weekend in Seattle football. And I suppose we have to start in a rainy, at times snowy, Madison, Wisconsin, where the UW football hopes of reaching the college football playoff were extinguished in a 13-10 loss. And I don't know if we ever specifically talked about it in the pod, but we did decide offline last week that we were going to have a moratorium on
moratoriums. Yeah, we got to hit them both now.
well, I mean, but what I'm saying is last Saturday was the reason we had the moratorium, because number one of those conversations was the college football playoff, because there is this thing that people do where they sit there and they look at it and say, well, the team is favored in all of these games. In the Huskies' case, heavily favored, admittedly, in all of these games. So therefore, they will win all these games, and it will be a showdown against Oregon, for a spot in the college football playoff, or, at least an opportunity to get in there. And, even if it's 80% to win that game, or whatever we said a week ago, 80% is not 100%. And the Huskies showed us definitively that that is not the case on Saturday. And that sort of relates to the second moratorium we had, which is on discussing Jed Fish's next coaching destination. Because same thing, this stuff changes from week to week. It is ridiculous to obsess over when there are still so many variables at play.
Yep. I mean, it's ridiculous to obsess over, even if there weren't. Even if they were undefeated, it would still be ridiculous to obsess over.
Granted, as we individually cannot control this. We are not
I
part
also
of an NIL donor
obsess
collective.
over it. I just don't want to talk about it. I'm fine talking about it offline or whatever. I will say it's not like I'm not obsessing over these things, for what it's worth. I mean, the playoff a little bit less. I was the number one person. Everybody, including Luca, mostly in my fucking house, was just like, we're going to win out and we're going to miss the playoff. And I'm like, dog, that first off, that is not going to happen. Like there was not a chance if the Huskies had won out that they would have missed the playoffs. They were in the playoff. Second off, go win the fucking games first, because I don't really care what's going to happen after you've won 4 games, right? You have to go win those games first. And we knew any like playoff conversation was going to come down to winning a very low percentage game. So when you take
Against
the
Oregon?
percentages, yes.
Well, now you're calling that a very low percentage game.
I mean, statistically, like,
I don't know. I don't know what the odds are in FPI at this point.
but when you factor in all of the different layers, like you were saying, of chances of winning each of these
Yes.
games, to get to all 4 of those was a difficult thing to do. People act like things are a foregone conclusion. I have seen college football teams lose games that they shouldn't have lost. We have seen it this year. We have seen it last year. We have seen it for the last 25 years. We have seen it for the previous 100 years before then. Like, and I told you there was one year that there was a conference championship week, and I remember going into it and thinking, I feel like Michael Bishop and Kansas State were involved, and I think Cade McNown might have also been involved in some way. But
Well,
like
this is definitely dating it.
there was one year where I was like, these teams are just going to win. And I remember looking at it, although I do remember looking at this on a phone. So it might have been a different year. Looking at it, it might have been later than that. But going back,
or you were like way ahead of the curve.
I think there's two different days that I remember of just like you assume the outcomes of games before they happen, and college football, that is a stupid thing to do. So we know that going in. I also said before the season, the Huskies are going to lose 2 games all year. Now, the 2 games that they were going to lose, I have been very wrong about. But the 2 games that I thought they would lose preseason, they have lost both of those games now. And one of them was in Ohio State. So,
I mean, it's true. If you told us before the start of the season, hey, the Huskies are going to lose 13, a close game at Wisconsin by a field goal, you'd be like, yeah, of course, in the snow.
Exactly.
I don't know what was Wisconsin preseason. They weren't this bad. Like, they've had a lot of injuries.
I think they were still bad, but like over time, it is one of those places. This is literally what I said to you. It's kind of the feeling that I had about the Seahawks going at the Commanders before I realized they're the best team on the face of the earth history. But like the playing,
you're saying the Seahawks, but not the Commanders, to be clear.
Neither. yes, the Seahawks. I not the Huskies, but it is going to be a difficult place to play going at Wisconsin. And other people have done it. But I remember last year, a much better Oregon team going at Wisconsin and struggling against that team on the road. It is just not an easy place to go play in the same way that Iowa isn't an easy place to go play. Like, you have to be quite a bit better and brave the elements. And that is just, it's not a thing we've done that much. When people are like, oh, the Huskies play in the rain in Seattle. No, we do not. Like, what it looks like in Seattle, we know this, versus what it looked like in Wisconsin. That is just not shit that they're seeing very often. Now, when it happens in Seattle, it's always against Oregon State.
It was one time against Arizona State.
Maybe there's like a Utah game in there, but like, the Arizona State game that what's his name, Troy Williams started.
No, that was just wind. I don't know if it was that rainy. I'm thinking of a more recent one where we were huddling under the bleachers to meet up with Brandy at halftime.
Oh yes, that was Arizona State. Yeah, that was a bad one.
Yeah, but and the Huskies kept fumbling and things. Also, never forget the Stanford game, the Jim Harbaugh yelling about the sellers of the UW assistants Stanford game, where I was sipping hot chocolate in the press box and you were stuck in the East End zone with
I do recall. But it's just like not a thing that we're facing that often, right?
Yes.
And in those types of games, you can have random outcomes. The Huskies outplayed Wisconsin in this game. And that's the thing that makes me really annoyed, is people after the game being like, and granted, I'm reading the dumbest parts of the internet, but people being like, oh, because I have to. I don't know why. I just needed to do it. But people being like, oh, Judd was already house shopping in Westwood instead of coaching. And I'm like, it's not like he wasn't trying in the game. And Damon Williams was trying to have a Herculean effort on his own in this game. Was it the best game that Damon has played? Absolutely not. But like, this was one of those types of games when Damon basically was like, I got to do this shit on my own. And you know what? He was right that he probably did have to.
Well, and he was right after the fumble. He was not right at the time of the fumble, because if he doesn't fumble and give up the touchdown, the Huskies probably do win this game. I don't think there's a scenario where Wisconsin scores more than 9 points. I guess
I did not think the Huskies were going to lose until basically they didn't get that 4th down. The long throw and 3rd down. Look, and I have a lot of complaints about Jed in this game. I think Jed is he's a very bad situational play caller. And the team is just like so deeply unpolished. You know what I mean? Like, it's incredible that we can have a coach in Mike McDonald in Seattle and a coach like Jed Fish in Seattle, because like the things that would drive Mike McDonald fucking crazy are all of the things that Jed Fish does badly. Right?
Yeah.
Now, sometimes that doesn't necessarily translate to the best offense. And I think overall the Husky offense is probably, I think they've actually they have not met expectations for the season.
I would say that. but
they are worse than expectation, but they're not bad.
No, I mean they've had moments. They're streaky is the most accurate thing you could say about the UW offense. They're 18th in FPI efficiency.
They probably should be top 10 in FPI efficiency. But
and like if you at home, they're top 10 in FPI efficiency.
Yeah, they're bad at playing on the road. Like it is also
I still just don't believe that there is something specific to the experience of playing on the road that Jed Fish is not doing correctly. Like these sample sizes are too small, and
it's also just harder. It is harder to play on the road than it is at home.
Yes, and you look at that in the FPI win probabilities. Like Purdue has not probably been a worse team than Wisconsin this season. The FPI probability of winning that game is like 89%. For this one, let's see, I don't know. I guess I have to go back to the notes from last week to find out what it was, but it was considerably lower. Like home field advantage is bigger in college than it is in the NFL, and I think that can sometimes throw us off a little bit.
I would guess it's by a pretty wide margin also.
Huskies were 73% to win at Wisconsin. So we're looking at like, a 16% win probability swing, something in that range.
The thing that Jed does badly, though, that I'm saying about being a bad situational play caller is it didn't feel like they were schemed for the weather, especially in the second half.
I think they were definitely caught off guard by the type of game that it was. But what I will say in Jed Fish's defense is I don't think he came into this game expecting that the offensive line would fare as poorly as it did. And injuries were a factor in that. Landon Hatchett's trying to play with a club on his hand, has to leave the game, midway through and is replaced by Zach Henney at center. They lose Drew as a party to an injury midway through the game, and those caused issues. But, the kind of dominance that we saw on the left side of the offensive line against Illinois with the return of Carver Willis and John Mills did not translate in this one whatsoever.
It's also it's harder for the line to play on the road too, though. Like these things don't happen in a vacuum, but
they don't. But one of my thoughts about this was, like, obviously Wisconsin is not very good. They were picked 12th in the Big Ten coming into the season, which is only 2 spots behind where UW was. So
yeah, that's not terrible.
I stand by UW losing a close game in Madison in November at the beginning of the year was a pretty predictable outcome. Again, not based on the way that the season has gone for Wisconsin or the fact that they had, you can talk about UW's injuries all you want. They had Danny O'Neill leave the game due to injury on the first drive, and then were using their number 3 quarterback.
They gained 200 yards, though. They didn't do anything to win this game.
I agree, but still, UW should have been able, against because of the fact that they didn't do anything offensively, UW should have been able to win the game.
Were you making another point?
I thought I had one more. Well, the other point I have is, like, I think, and I don't know to what degree this was true of the coaching staff as well, we were lulled into this false sense of security by the fact that UW has, at home as well as on the road, repeatedly started slowly and then come on as the game has continued. The Maryland game, most notably, Rutgers certainly falls into that category at home. So that, okay, when they take the lead 7-3, when they do score the 1 touchdown they had on the fade to Denzel Boston, you're like, okay, we got through it. Things are fine now. And things were not fine.
Yeah, but you have to be better enough that one bad mistake doesn't cost you the game.
Without question.
And I think that's where the issue was. Or even being able to finish on some of those drives. And it was kind of like, I just, the way that Jed gets so pass happy or try to have DeMond do it on his own happy, because a lot of these aren't designed runs for DeMond. Like the amount of, if you looked at just matter of fact runs, like he had 19, but there maybe was like 1 or 2 that were designed. A lot of those were scrambles.
There's got to be more than that, but yes, many of them were scrambles, particularly in the second half.
Jonah was clearly hurt in the game and then didn't play.
I mean,
first quarter on.
He's questionable for this week.
Yeah. Adam Muhammad is the type of running back, and Jed just doesn't. It is not in his bones to do this, I don't think, because he just doesn't. There's so many situations when you come into it, and the announcer said at the beginning, they were like, they're going to ride Jonah Coleman in this game. And I was like, spoiler alert, we knew this before we knew about the Joan injury, before anything, I was telling Luke, I was like, they're not going to. They literally never do. And every game, Big Ten broadcasters come in and they're like, Hussey's going to ride Jonah Coleman on this day. And I'm like, it just doesn't happen. That is not how Jedd Fisch calls plays. And at some point, he's probably going to have to be able to utilize running backs a little bit better than he does. Adam Muhammad being at 12 for 54, it's like this was the type of game that it probably should have been, at least in that second half, Adam Muhammad first down, Adam Muhammad second down, until we actually saw that the passing offense was going to be able to do anything in this one. I thought the deep pass to Denzel Boston on the 3rd and 6 was just like he just like he coaches and calls plays the way I play college football. And that's what's frustrating about it.
See,
it's like,
but that's the thing I will talk about, because who knows that Denzel Boston was the first read on that play.
it might have been Demont. This might be Demont, but I do think Jedd.
Or it might have just been the defense took away whatever the first read was, because that happens sometimes. And you one of the ways that you create space underneath is by having Denzel take the top off the defense by going deep. Like, I do think, like, this game, as well as the freshman receivers have played this season, this game did reinforce that you need more receiving depth, that they are too reliant on Denzel
Was
Boston.
Amari Evans active?
Sure.
Didn't get a target.
Yeah.
I mean, he might just be bad.
I mean, I think he's probably just behind because of the injury that he had in training camp and because of the way that the freshmen have played. But I think the offensive shortcomings were more about the offensive line, but I do think the lack of, playmaking depth. I guess the other thing I was going back to at the very beginning is I do think that part of what happened here is, even though UW is bigger and stronger in the trenches this season, and, even though Wisconsin is not Michigan or Ohio State, there was a degree to which there was a contrast here. UW undoubtedly enormous advantages in terms of skill position talent over Wisconsin, but Wisconsin had the better offensive and defensive line, and that did ultimately play a big factor in this one.
That's why it's hard to go there, though. These teams are used to the shit.
Yes,
we just got to the party. These motherfuckers have been doing this for 100 years.
We're used to playing in Tempe, and it's like 88 degrees.
So it's not going to happen overnight. It is an institutional thing. It is a cultural thing also. And UW probably would have prided themselves in Pac-12 days on having good lines or whatever. But it's not the same as Big Ten country, And that's what I said last week is I thought Wisconsin was bad enough. And I think I was probably right in the end, even though the Huskies lost. I think I was right in the end that they should have won this game. Wisconsin didn't do anything to win. The Huskies fucked it up. And they are so unpolished. But saying it's worse than the Montana loss, get the fuck out of here. That is so ridiculous to even compare these two losses. That was at home against a legitimately bad team. Wisconsin beats that Montana team 100 times out of 100.
Well, legitimately bad FBS team. They were a legitimately very good FCS team, which is their level of play. But that is a thing, is that people often... This happens all the time. One of my things is when a 25% 3-point shooter makes a 3 and the broadcaster act this is the most shocking development that's ever happened, when a 250 hitter gets a hit and no one blinks an eye, because our context is that 250 is an extraordinarily low 3-point percentage, but is a fairly normal batting average.
Now, how they lost 27-10 to Maryland at home, granted the weather was very, very different for that one. That doesn't really make much sense to me. But I do think Wisconsin is a little bit better. I think their defense is a little bit better than they would get credit for. And on the road, they were 21-7. They lost 21-7 to Oregon, and their defense played well in that game. And I think we took that as, and I'm willing to say me, took that as Oregon's bad. But it also may have been Wisconsin's defense is a little bit better than they were getting credit for. And that's why they're going to upset Indiana. It's a normal bad loss. We've been doing this shit for years. The Huskies have been having normal bad losses for a long time. And you're questioning that? We went to Arizona every year and did it.
And often Arizona State.
This is the new version of Arizona. It's just the weather is different. So I personally like some of the the hate. Okay, this is kind of maybe where we transition. So, okay, the things that I really disagreed with, the field goal was obviously like, what the fuck are you doing in this moment? And like if they don't kick that, they pick that up. Any of the logic did not make sense.
Arizona State, in terms of FPI efficiency in 2022, was about as bad a team as Wisconsin is this season.
And I am still haunted by that. And you know who lost that game?
Kalen DeBoer?
Kalen DeBoer, the coach of Alabama, lost that game. So people just acting like, and granted, Jed has more bad history in road games and just doing stupid little things where it's like he mostly been slightly better at it this year. They didn't do it. Damon did the stupid things against Michigan, but Damon Williams is really young. He is still extremely talented.
I think some people out there maybe are guilty of setting expectations a little too high for Damon Williams Jr. I don't know if I can think of any of them.
Where is he at in QBR? Hold on.
18th.
I mean, I will say that 18th is probably lower than I expected him to be at, but like there are really, okay, where's Dante Moore? No, everybody is like number one pick in the draft, Dante Moore, high draft pick.
You're right about Dante 37th. Moore.
37th. He's not that far off from Ty Simpson. Like, let's be real here about how good Damon Williams is.
What do you mean he's not that far off from Ty? Damon is not that. Yeah, because this is, you failed to listen to your own point, which is that like experience at quarterback is the most important thing. Other than
no, I don't agree with that. I don't think that's true anymore in college football because I went into this year. It's true for some players, but it's not true for other players. I went into this year thinking to myself that Clemson was better than they were expected. Nope. Obviously wrong there. LSU, teams like that, and Penn State. Literally, those were three teams where I was like, these teams are being underrated because of their. But Diego Pavia is still playing well. Luke Altmaier is still playing well. It still matters. Fernando Mendoza is not that old.
He's not?
No, I think he's like a junior.
I mean, I think that's 2 full seasons of starting.
But this is not Diego Pavia old.
Sure, but he's thrown 600 passes before he got to Indiana. Damon Williams had thrown under 100.
Wait, how's Drew Aller? Probably.
Oh no, I agree that Drew Aller was a tremendous disappointment when healthy.
I mean, he's younger than Fernando Mendoza.
Damon was also technically to close the circle did throw 105 passes as a true freshman.
But there are younger quarterbacks who are playing well. But what I'm saying is that Damon is in the range of he will probably finish the season around those players. If we're like Damon's in the same territory as Ty Simpson and Carson Beck and Darian Mesa, like that is great. We are happy with that. Damon has not
but it's also not
expectations. On the road, he has had a couple of games that he has struggled in.
This is not a Damon Williams Jr. criticism. Again, the point is the bar got set very high, including by
this is you blaming me for saying that for getting too high on Damon, and I will argue right now that I was not too high on Damon. I was exactly where I should have been.
I mean, many people asked. Multiple people made the joke. Multiple people after you claimed that Sam Darnold was the world's best quarterback. Wait, you don't think it's Damon Williams? So that's the tenor that people are taking from your Damon Williams Jr. argument.
My answer to them is wait.
And look, Damon again. Could Damon Williams Jr. be in the Heisman conversation as an upperclassman? Without question, especially when he transfers to Texas.
This is obscene that you're even bringing this up. First off, I thought it was very notable, which we could transition to point number 2 here. I thought it was very notable that Damon's age came up in the statement, the response. Everybody calls everything a statement. It's not like he did a notes app, right? He was asked a question and he answered it.
I think that he had that one prepared. You should know that you're working some things out ahead of time because you know you're going to get asked certain questions.
Obviously, yes. But like, it wasn't like, a statement. It was an answer.
I guess I hadn't really thought about whether I wanted to coach at UW or not. But now that you asked this question, here's my 3 paragraphs about why I do want to coach at the University of Washington and why the people making the list don't know.
So the Newsweek story, that's what I would say is everybody was like, oh, this came to
It's not a Newsweek story, to be clear. It's a Newsweek headline.
Aggregated or headline by
Who knew that Newsweek, like Sports Illustrated, was just an aggregator now?
I think we probably could have figured that out.
I mean, maybe, but I hope U.S. News and World Report never sinks to that.
No! Not the U.S. News. The World Report can do that. We don't care. The point is, people were like, he would have had to answer that question whether the Huskies won or lost. Does that make sense? because
course.
it being to that Newsweek headline, everybody that happened on like Saturday, I want to say Friday.
I don't know. I didn't know anything about it until Christian Cable referenced it in his story about the statement.
That was what pushed it to the point of he now needs to respond to this more than
Yes.
it is whispers. So everybody being like, oh, he just waited until they lost or whatever. Do you think that Jed Fish got on the phone with his agent on Sunday morning and they were like, well, Jed, all the offers are off the table. You fucked it up yesterday. That is not how this goes.
It's
Like,
not how this goes, but I
his
also
agent
think Jed
wasn't
Fish,
like, well, you shit the bed on Florida. Like, come on.
I also think Jed Fish is smart enough to know that the opportunities that were out there for him, if UW did make the college football playoff, look different from the outcomes, the opportunities available to him if UW plays in the Las Vegas Bowl.
Sure, but he didn't necessarily close any doors or open any doors with his response. But his response
I agree
was
with that.
a lot of what I feel like is true about the situation. And
Of
I think
course, he didn't make anything up in there.
people are looking at the situation, and really, I think I do wonder how much a certain reporter from Arizona who has a vendetta against the Pac-12 and against the teams that left from the Pac-12 to the Big Ten, who is highly involved. And this is the other thing that I was thinking about with coach searches. Do you remember when we left for the Big Ten? Do you remember the morning before it happened, or the morning that it actually happened? There was reporting that it wasn't going to happen. So you're like, where there's smoke, like the amount that we actually knew that what was going on behind the scenes and what was actually going on behind the scenes, I do not think those two things matched each other.
I don't think that's fair because I think most of the colleges in the Pac-12 woke up that morning thinking that they were going to sign the Apple TV deal.
But the speculators that we're talking about along the way speculated in both directions and mostly against UW and Oregon going to the Big Ten for a long, long time when those conversations were clearly happening. They clearly had an offer from the Big Ten during that time period. And everybody was like, it's not going to happen. 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 Like, and there was smoke because your argument is with UCLA, there wouldn't be smoke unless there's some truth to it. And the honest thing about the move to the Big Ten was there was more smoke against the Huskies and Oregon going to the Big Ten than there was pro.
Probably that's the case.
And the reality is we don't need to pay attention. There's no where there's smoke, there's fire in this. It is probably one person said one thing and they extrapolated out from what could have been a very casual conversation to this is happening now. And that's where it got to. That's where the Jed to UCLA conversation got to, is this is happening. It may still happen. I don't know. And if it does, I think I would be upset about that. But I also would be excited about the prospects of who UW goes out and hires. But there are realities that we have to think about, which is Deshaun Foster's salary at UCLA, I believe, was $12 million total. And Jed Fish's buyout from UW is $10 million. So if you think UCLA is at the place right now where they're willing to pay a $10 million buyout for a coach that is also still unproven, even if they'd won the Big Ten or made the college football playoff. First off, you win the college football playoff, you're not going to fucking UCLA.
What I would tell you again, and have told you offline, is that all the people doing the rumors know all these things too. Like, you haven't discovered a new information here about Deshaun Foster's salary. What they have determined is that UCLA is ready to make a different level of commitment to college football than they were 2 years ago. And that is what puts Jed Fish potentially in play for them. And yeah, we'll see when we get there. But you're right. Your speculating is of no additional value relative to the other people you're complaining about speculating.
And that's why I don't think we need to sit here and worry about the speculation. That's why there's a moratorium.
Well, I think the reason we don't need to sit here and worry about the speculation is your point. Like, it would be disappointing if Jed Fish left and we felt like we had to start over in terms of building to a new coach's vision for a fifth time since 2019, which is pretty bizarre to say. But like, I'd prefer, but it's not the end of the world. This is not like Kalen DeBoer leaving and feeling like you are starting over.
Which they were. But so the points that he made were basically, this is a young roster. We're just starting to build this shit right now. And which I think is all true. You know, Kalen DeBoer didn't coach a Big Ten game.
I think it's true, but also like part of the reason that the young guys are playing is, to your point about Amari Evans, some of the veterans they brought in have not produced the way that they hoped.
But like, you're talking about a small amount of players.
But like, the I mean, sure, but like the point is, it's not like they're playing all these players, young players, and making the college football playoff. They're playing all these young players and a fringe top 25 team, which is a good place to be, but not the best place to be.
But if you're Jed Fish and you're looking at the roster right now and you're saying we're a fringe top 25 team and we have these young players, people act like you could just slide a whole roster over, and that's not what would happen. You still have to start basically again. And maybe that's something he wants to do. He didn't take Noah Fafita from Arizona. Do you think Jed didn't try? Like, he knows that it is not a given. He didn't take Teteroa McMillan from Arizona. UW would have been better last year had he been able to slide over the entire Arizona roster. But the reality is it's a patchwork, and it's a difficult thing to do, to just move rosters over. It's not that simple. Like, people are set here as human beings. So I think what he said is true. The investment that UW is making in football and the facilities and everything, he's obviously been involved in that and has helped guide that. And the roster is young, and he's excited about the roster. And I think we all should be. And that's the other piece that annoyed me about this fucking loss, and all the people were talking about it after, is they're 6-3 right now. Like, we got so spoiled because of Kalen DeBoer. Like, the amount of years.
Chris Peterson too.
Most of Chris Peterson.
Chris Peterson went to New Year's 6 bowl games 4 consecutive seasons. Let's all remain calm here.
It was against a Pac-12 schedule. Like, the radius was different for Chris Peterson. They won some bad Pac-12s. You can't tell me that they didn't. They're not winning the Big Ten with some of those rosters.
Yeah, but the playoff is much larger. The point is being in the top 12, which they were.
They might not have been had they been playing a Big Ten schedule. It's harder. It is harder. The path is hard. That's why Chris Peterson left.
That's not why Chris Peterson left, actually. It's because he realized he didn't like coaching college football, which kudos to Chris Peterson.
Granted, sure. But being at 6-3, 3-3 in the Big Ten, with 2 very winnable games on the horizon and a third game that we'll see about on the horizon, is not a bad place to be for your second year in a program. So while I agree there are very annoying parts of watching Jed Fish coach, if we are taking a step back, given where they were post Kalen DeBoer, and really Kalen DeBoer's not even part of it, where they were at given post the national championship team that put so much talent in the NFL.
Yes, because Kalen DeBoer was starting over too, and Austin Mack, it's not likely
Kalen DeBoer would have been starting over at UW too. He's not starting over at Alabama. He inherited a very nice roster, but like for the work that Jed did to take with the roster where it was and get them to the place that they are right now, and beating Illinois and playing close with Michigan into the second half, like, it is an impressive feat that he has done. Because you can look around and people, like, there are people talking about Jonathan Smith. And I'm like, what about Jonathan Smith excites you right now? Like, in what world is 3-6 and 0-6 in the Big Ten, Jonathan Smith, a better outcome for the Huskies than Jed Fish? Because you haven't been watching. You would be so fucking annoyed with Jonathan Smith about something on a week-to-week basis. And I keep coming back to this point of, I remember watching Kalen DeBoer's, the national championship team, and hating them for so many of those games. It was actually one of the most stressful seasons we have faced because the standards were they couldn't lose, and they really, really tried to lose some of those games.
Yeah.
So it's just, and they were not playing as hard of a schedule. Like, that UW team doesn't make the playoffs if they're in the Big Ten. If we are being honest with ourselves, they are probably not a playoff team if they're facing a Big Ten schedule.
I mean, they were number 12 in FPI. I think they would have made it.
No, I'm talking on a 4-team playoff.
Oh, yeah, no, probably not.
So they would have been clipped in one of those games because they didn't play that well a lot of the time. Like you said, they're 12th in FPI, the 2022 team.
I mean, they did play I mean, granted, this includes the playoff. They did play literally the hardest schedule in the country.
That's the 2022 team and the 2023 team.
2023 team.
They played the hardest schedule in the country. I mean, because they played Texas and Michigan.
It is,
Also,
but Michigan
played.
played in 2 playoff games and had the seventh hardest schedule. So I don't know if I agree with your assessment about the relative difficulty of the Big Ten and the
It's the
Pac-12
average
at that
game
point.
is harder though. Like the average game is harder in the Big Ten than it is in the Pac-12.
I mean, the Pac-12 that year had 5 of the top 21 teams in the country. The Big Ten had 2. So I and had the third best Big Ten team that year was 40th. So no, you're underestimating how much harder the Big Ten got because it got
When we
the
showed up,
Pac-12
yes.
programs.
All right, fair enough. But being at 6-3 for Jed in year 2 is there. We're fine. This is good. And if they win the next 2, we're like winning 8 games in year 2 after completely overhauling the program is a fine place to be. And
Well, hopefully 9.
well, we'll see. That's
No,
what
but
I'm
I'm
saying.
saying there's a bowl game at the end of that too. You're
I'm
allowed
just
to win those.
I'm saying if they get 2 weeks out and the Huskies win both of these games, which are both winnable games, they are more winnable games than at Wisconsin. And
I mean, UCLA is probably a better team than Wisconsin, but the weather is more conducive.
that would be a fine outcome for Jed. It's not an amazing outcome, but like if our expectations is that everybody's going to be Kalen DeBoer or even Chris Peterson. Chris Peterson was the winningest coach in college football history when he started here. It was a fucking coup. It was a coup that we hired Chris Peterson. But like we're way ahead of where Sark was in his first handful of seasons. Anyway, that is my entire takeaway is I don't.
Most things are neither good and bad. Most things are fine.
I'm upset about the outcome of the game against Wisconsin, but they were just going to lose one of these games. Like, I don't know.
I would not agree with that.
It's at various times while the Huskies are playing Big Ten road games against teams like Minnesota, Wisconsin, Illinois.
Well, not Minnesota. Minnesota has a dome.
Oh,
Don't
okay,
they?
great. Do they?
Actually, maybe they don't. Maybe they were playing indoors at the Viking Stadium, and now they're back outdoors. Pay no mind to me. Also, Chris Peterson only went to 3 consecutive New Year's Six bowl games. To be clear,
I mean that's Chris Peterson was great. I'm not even complaining about Chris Peterson.
I'm just correcting that I said it was 4.
If Jed was like, I want to go to UCLA, and tomorrow Chris Peterson was like, I'm back, sign me up.
Obviously,
but like that's Chris Peterson ain't walking through that door. We would be happy if Chris Peterson was just our coach still. You know, like I think we would be fine if
they are outdoors, Minnesota.
If the whole Kalen DeBoer experience never happened, but like they're gonna lose to some of those in some of those games because that's what happens. You lose in some of those games.
But also, what happens is that you have these, flaws that you can out talent at times, and sometimes they get you. And that's why those are important even when you win the games.
No, Jed Fish has a lot to get better at.
I'm just saying some people may not have acknowledged that reality at certain periods of time. All right, what do you have to say about
if that's true? But also when I saw them throw that goal line fade to Denzel Boston, I was like, I hate you personally, Jed Fish. I don't care that this worked. I am just like, why is this the offense from the goal line? I think it was first down, run into the box.
I don't mind it. I think running at the goal line or passing at the goal line has now become underrated.
Well, didn't they run on first down and just get stuffed?
I don't. I was watching the Sounders at that point of the game.
Oh, so we were both watching different other games?
I mean, I had the game on my second screen.
You said you wanted to bring up something about what I was watching instead.
Yeah, you were watching the Oregon-Iowa game.
I mean, I was locked in on Oregon, Iowa.
You don't have the second screen going the way that I did.
I could have, obviously, but
you did.
It felt a little bit like there was when the last drive when Iowa scored their touchdown and then Oregon came down and kicked the field goal, which I'm still mad about. I was just like, I'm just gonna watch this and then come back to UW. So I missed him on fumbling, and I was like, wait, what happened?
Yeah, wasn't great. Well, yeah, I wanted to talk more about that when we weren't 50 minutes into the pod without having covered the Seahawks or anything else. What did you want to say about Sunday?
Best team in the league, doesn't matter.
I'm coming around to the Seahawks are actually boring.
That's good though. Boring's fine.
It's great. And people wanted to make it unboring based on the results of the early third quarter and the turnovers there.
See,
but
I don't know if they did. Who did? Were there
I
actually
think some people did.
I'm a little bit skeptical about that.
Okay.
Sam Darnold threw 2 incomplete passes. I guess I hadn't really checked back on the
how many
box score.
how many total passes did he throw? 12?
12. I did not realize that he threw 2 incomplete passes. That's actually incredible. Yeah, people.
I was very disappointed that he had an incomplete in the first half. That was the only one that hit the ground all day, because the other incomplete pass was the interception.
My takeaways were that George Holani is awesome.
Let George Holani cook. Let's go. I was playing against Ken Walker III, so I was especially excited about that, although it did not end up mattering for me.
They kind of just
thanks Jordan Love.
Have it figured out in almost every facet of the game. Like, they were actually able to run the ball in this game, which is something that they previously hadn't been as efficient at.
It was interesting that Mike McDonald attributed that in part to Jalen Sundell coming out of the game with a knee injury that is going to potentially send him to IR and will sideline him multiple weeks. Oluwatimi, you had the snap issue after he first came in, and then
I thought there were a couple. Were there 2?
There was 2, because there was the false start on the barnyard, which maybe wasn't the time to call that, because a false start is such a huge issue when you're at the 1 yard line and you just changed centers. So maybe I like that play in general, maybe not the perfect time for it. And then the fumbled snap with Darnold. But credit Oluwatimi for being stronger in the run game, and most of the success they had on the ground came after halftime.
I mean, yeah, Oluwatimi's PFF grade was also, I think, pretty excellent. And it definitely made me think, are we starting the wrong guy here? I don't think
Sundell has been good overall.
Yeah, Oluwatimi was the number 1 rated by PFF lineman on the Seahawks.
Anthony Bradford had his best game. That's probably the bigger difference in terms of your success in the run game. Per Mike Renner of PFF, this is just the 3rd time in the Super Bowl era a team has led 28-0 in back-to-back games. So I believe it might have been the 2nd time in the Super Bowl era that a team has scored at least 35 points in the first half of consecutive games. I mean, part of what I think did feel a little frustrating at the second half is people were placing this in the context of the Seahawks beating Arizona 58-0 as part of the 2012 stretch. That is the closest
we were reminded.
Of course.
Yeah.
But that was a team that was starting Ryan Lindley at quarterback. Jacoby Brissett is a professional quarterback. He and Trey McBride were eventually going to hook up and, matriculate the ball down.
It's like a rom-com.
They've been circling each other.
Will they or won't they? Come on, Jacoby Brissett and Trey McBride. I thought defensively,
Kyler couldn't get it done.
Mike McDonald, seeing some of the looks, I hadn't paid that much attention to the Cardinals and what they were doing, but seeing when they brought in, I think it's Calvin Beachum, I want to say, is the 6th lineman who they bring in. And the second that I saw that, I was like, oh, these motherfuckers think they're going to pass out of a heavy set. Well, guess what? We invented doing that. And it was it was one of those moments where it's Mike McDonald just ended it on those 2 plays. And seeing it happen in real time and his scheming for it, I saw a breakdown of it, of basically what they're doing. And they disguised the Tyrese Knight blitz on that one, who was the person who ended up getting home against Brissett. The fumble gets picked up for the touchdown. And it was just Mike McDonald is at a different level defensive coach wise right now.
Oh, we're going to find out about that this week.
I mean, we certainly are. No, I mean, this is obviously the test. And granted, they gave them, Trey McBride had a good game in this. Even his yards per reception was pretty good.
Oh, it was very good.
Jacoby Brissett didn't have a good game, and Bam Knight didn't have a good game. And there were just so many things that they couldn't do. And also, there's a reality of, it's not that people are trying less, but the amount that you can really play 100% defensively when you're up by that many points is just it just happens.
You're also more conservative, which is the correct thing to do. Because those plays, while they are frustrating, they are not going to beat you. 80-yard touchdowns, giving up, letting Colston Loveland run free through the secondary like the Bengals did 2 weeks ago. That's how you
problem.
get big. Granted.
But I thought it was I want them to use Rashid Shaheed differently than they decided to in this game, but I'm assuming that'll be the case with another week of work, and I think that'll be helpful.
He
JSN
did
is the
pick
best
up
receiver on the planet.
10 yards on 2 of the 3 plays.
No, I'm not saying that they were bad, but it's basically like he didn't add the element. We could have done that with somebody else, I think.
I suppose.
It didn't add the deep element that we were expecting to see from Rashid Shaheed. But
Yeah, maybe
still...
one reason that we didn't see much of that is because the Seahawks went up 35-0 in the first half.
Yes, I think they're only up 28-0. They didn't go up 35, did they?
Yeah,
but
didn't they? Oh, maybe not.
Huh. Oh no, they were up 35-0. Never mind.
Okay, yeah,
yeah.
I thought that was the stat I just gave.
Yeah, there's not that much more to take away from it, but the team is just really, really good right now. And I think people are like, it was a Cardinals team that people would have described as frisky.
I don't know. I mean, yes, they were coming off a good win at Dallas, but frisky is strong.
Frisky is strong? But okay, listen to this. They had the Titans game that they should have won, that they blew. Even the Seahawks game, the first one was pretty close. They lost by a point to the Niners. They lost by 4 at the Colts. They lost by 4 against the Packers.
All right,
they beat the Cowboys by 10, and then we beat the shit out of them.
It's true. Again, it is not the 2012 Arizona Cardinals.
So,
all right, let's get into the rest of the weekend with the roundup, starting with the Kraken. Going back to last Wednesday, they got a reality check in the final game of their homestand, losing 6-1 to San Jose. They did rally for a 4-3 overtime win in St. Louis on Saturday, giving Seattle a win on the day. After tying the game, Chandler Stevenson scored with 2 seconds left in regulation, a pretty wild finish, before losing 2-1 Sunday in Dallas to complete that trip. Joey Decord has missed the last 2 games with an upper body injury suffered last Wednesday. Different starters each of those 2 games as part of the 3 goalie rotation the Kraken are using. They are back home this week for a 3-game homestand, including a second visit already by the Sharks before traveling to Detroit to start a 4-game road trip next Saturday. Seattle Sounders deciding game 3 in Minnesota. Not the same weather is in Madison, but certainly a very cold one and a wild one. The Sounders scored twice in the first 8 minutes with a pretty setup for Albert Rushnak's finish in the just minutes into the game. And then Danny Masovsky taking advantage of a Minnesota defender whiffing on a clearance to score off a corner and make it 2-0. They gave one back on a free kick in the 19th minute, but then got a huge break when the Loons' Joseph Rosales was sent off just before halftime for headbutting. Which Sounders player was that? Oh, Jesus Ferreira. With the man advantage, the Sounders still conceded twice after halftime, with Minnesota taking a 3-2 lead in the 71st. The Sounders then rallied with Jordan Morris scoring the 88th minute and set up the second shootout in as many games of this best-of-3 series, because of course it is in St. Paul. This time, Brian Schmetzer subbed on Andrew Thomas after the goal for the shootout. He immediately saved the first penalty, though he hurt his hand in the process. The Sounders gave back the advantage they'd gained with Jordan Morris going off the post. The teams then traded 4 consecutive makes and back-to-back misses with Obed Vargas and Osaze De Rosario missing chances to win it for the Sounders. After a pair of makes, that meant both teams had to go to their goalkeepers because of a rule that reduces both teams to 10 takers if one team has received a red card.
Really?
Yeah. So it's
Why?
not the Sounders. I don't know.
That's a stupid rule. Don't get sent off.
I agree. Dane St. Clair took a confident penalty, and Andrew Thomas struck the crossbar hard, ending the Sounders season in truly frustrating fashion.
I mean, yeah, I saw none of this. I have no thoughts.
It was on Apple TV, so of course you did.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if you look back on the Sounders season, it's a good thing they won the Leagues Cup, because otherwise it would probably be more disappointing that given all the talent that they accumulated and the level of play that they did show at times, including that Leagues Cup run, that they wouldn't have, merely finished 5th in the West standings and been knocked out in the first round of the playoffs. I don't think the regular season to me was a disappointment given the injuries that they had and how little Jordan Morris ended up contributing. But it's not unreasonable to think that. And then the MLS Cup playoffs are just a complete crapshoot. And things like losing 2 shootouts in a series where you have a 2-goal aggregate advantage happen because of this dumb format. So There you go. But again, we'll always have that Leagues Cup triumph over your doppelganger Leo Messi to remember the 2025 season by. Seattle Reigns season had come to an end Friday night in Orlando. They gave up an early goal to the Pride's Haley McCutcheon in the 21st minute, could never find the equalizer. Jess Fishlock came on at halftime while Lou Barnes subbed out of her final NWSL goal in the 62nd minute as the Reigns sought more offense. Both teams did create 1.2 XG in this one, but Pride keeper Anna Morehouse had 8 saves, and Orlando salted it away with a penalty kick in second half stoppage time from Luana, who was playing her first playoff game since a Hodgkin lymphoma diagnosis in April 2024 and a return to the field in September. So, a bit of a happy note there. As we look ahead to the offseason, Jess Fishlock is the most notable Reign free agent. We'll see, sort of what her plans are to continue playing. Manny Mercado is the only other player who started against the Pride who was out of contract. So, this team has turned over an enormous amount in the last 12 months. They've gotten really way younger, more talented after missing the playoffs in 2024. I think, it's set up well for 2026. Lynn Biandola should be back on the field at some point, after giving birth. I'm excited to see what 2026 can bring for Seattle Reign. Women's basketball entered the AP poll at number 25 for the first time in a couple of years. El Ladine again did not play Monday as the Huskies dominated a Montana team that they lost to on the road last year. The Grizz shot just 29% from the field. Savia Sellers had 19 points in 18 minutes, 5 assists to lead the Huskies, while Yulia Grabovskaya had 14 points and 6 of 7 shooting, 8 boards. Freshman played a lot in this one again, and Bryn McGahee had 12 points and 5 boards, her best effort in 2 games as a Husky. Sienna Harvey, who had the big breakout game in the season opener, scored 9 points but shot 2 of 14 from the field. So may want to clean that one up. The schedule gets much more interesting Saturday when the Huskies visit Utah, ranked number 45 on Bart Torvik in a Pac-12 rematch. The Utes have started 2-0 with blowout wins over Sioux Falls and Utah State, so this will be their first real test. It's the first full year for Gavin Peterson, who took over for Lynn Roberts after Roberts took the LA Sparks job in November. Peterson led the Utes back to the NCAA tournament before a first-round loss to Indiana. Very different look to the roster. They lost 4 starters to graduation, and the 5th leading scorer, Gianna Neepkins, transferred to UCLA. So 2 leading scorers thus far, freshman Avery Helmstead and Evelina Otto. UW men's basketball. Did you watch this game against Denver on Thursday?
Some of it. I watched, I would say most of it, actually.
Yeah, they struggled to put away the Pioneers, whose last lead was 18-17, but they trailed by just 7 with a little over 5 minutes left before a 12-0 Husky run put the game away. A remarkable 7 Huskies scored double figures. Everyone who saw more than 1 minute of action but Frank Kepnong. Quite an offensive night for Hannes Steinbach with 13 points on 5 of 12 shooting, but he pulled down 16 boards, 7 offensive, and had 4 assists. JJ Maniquet had 7 assists. Kwamari Peterson and Bryson Tucker made 3 3-pointers apiece. That set up a big one Sunday at Baylor. The Huskies losing 78-69 in, probably the most interesting non-conference game they've played in a few years here, I would say. Maybe since the Gonzaga game.
The Baylor game is what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yep. Interesting is one way to describe it. No, it's a good Baylor team. I mean, they're obviously, it's a brand new roster and they're an unproven team, but I think Baylor won that game more than the Huskies lost it, if that makes sense. And they're just going to have to be able to hit threes at some point. Like, there's a reality that if you shoot threes as badly as they shot threes, you're not going to win very much. And it's kind of the same thing every year. And I think we kind of knew it. Maybe we thought they were a little bit better.
But I think they are a little bit better. I mean, Kwamari Peterson shot 1 of 9. This guy who hit 42% last year. And granted, he was at 29% the year before that, so I would hesitate to say that he has the true talent of a 42% shooter, but I'm pretty confident he has the better than the true talent of a 1 of 9 shooter. Wesley Yates, another guy who shot, 40% plus in his first season is a collegian, shot 1 of 5. It was a pretty tough night overall for Wesley Yates, 5 of 14 from 3 of 15, I should say, in the field for him. So it really left the Huskies very dependent on Zoom Diallo to create offense. in this one, and he did 15 points, 6 of 9 inside the arc, 6 of 11 overall, but only 7 assists for the Huskies. And I do think they got a little shorthanded as this game went on. They're playing without still Desmond Claude due to the ankle injury that's kept him out all season. Jacob Bogdanovic, I think, would have played a lot in this one with his ability to stretch the floor. He's out for an extended period, and then they lose Bryson Tucker, who had a pretty nice first half, to an ankle injury after 21 minutes. So they're down 3 guys who would be in their rotation by the end of it.
Yeah, I mean, they hung around, and when they cut it to 4, I think it was on the first 3 that they hit all game, maybe the second.
That sounds right.
They stayed in the game. I thought JJ Mandaquit overall played, I guess, the turnovers. I don't know. He didn't play as bad of a game as I thought he was getting kind of dinged for by the broadcasters. It was more of like a team effort on it. Even Hannes, like, he's still very young, Hannes Steinbach.
Baylor had a nice game plan for dealing with him. He only gets 7 shot attempts from the field.
There's some finishing that he needs to continue to work on. And there were some plays where I was like, oh, that's going in. And he was able to be neutralized a little bit more than I thought he would going into it. But again, this might be a really good Baylor team. We don't know.
And he, again, had 7 offensive rebounds, 15 overall, 3 blocks. Like, he does things. Even when he's not scoring, he's doing things.
There were some moments in the paint. Kepnong didn't play very much, which maybe that was offensively, or maybe he's just not going to play that much this year.
I was a little surprised by it, but I do think it's a testament to like how good Lathan Somerville was in this one. And then Baylor is really small, so that kind of made it difficult for him to match up.
They just kept finishing at the hoop. Like,
but that's what floor spacing does. Like, Kepnong's not going to be at the hoop if you're playing, Michael Ratai, who can shoot threes, as your center.
Okay, so you're basically saying they were able to spread out the Huskies in this one.
Yeah.
And then our on-ball defense just isn't good enough to finish.
I don't think anyone's on-ball defense is good enough. Like, that's the formula. What I would say is that the Huskies probably needed to do, even though they had 38% offensive rebounds, they probably needed to do more to take advantage of their size on offense.
I don't think you could feel it. Like, I don't think you could feel that they had size during this game.
Yeah, I would not disagree with that. I was impressed with the skill Lathan Somerville showed in this one. He was someone I was expecting to just really be a big body, but they were able to play through him in the post early on. And I do think, part of it is just he's going to play a bigger role for this team, even when Kepnong is healthier than I expected.
There's something there overall for the Huskies. This would have been a big win, though. And it was kind of like, in Big Ten play, they will have enough opportunities to go out and beat some good teams along the way.
And that's why you play this one. So, Sunday, January 4th, they head to Indiana. It's a road trip at Indiana and which is like almost identical to Baylor in the Ken Palm standings, and then at Purdue, which is number 7. Mm-hmm. Like, you play this game, so you're better prepared to play those games in January. That's the point to me. Winning it would have been a bonus.
Winning it would have put them on a better track for making the NCAA tournament.
For sure.
Because they would have had a signature win, but losing it doesn't hurt you that much.
But to your point about where Jed Fish has the Huskies in year 2, I feel completely good with where Danny Sprinkle has the Huskies in year 2.
Oh, it's not even, it's fine. But like, I think we're all feeling fine with where Danny Sprinkle has the team. It's one game. It's just like they didn't quite finish the opportunity that they had. And there are some issues. I guess I'll say the same thing about it's not Danny Sprinkle's fault that they didn't hit threes in this game, but it felt like the offense could have been maybe a little bit better. And I don't know exactly what they needed to do differently, but there were some moments where it was like, oh, they just have no idea what they're doing here. But it's also their 3rd game that they've played.
Yes. And while there is a long-term UW problem of not having enough shooting, it's not necessarily a long-term Danny Sprinkle problem in the same way. It's a Lorenzo Romar and a Mike Hopkins problem.
And this might have been, it was a hostile environment too. I was impressed with Waco. This might have been a situation where
this is one of the best programs. Like, this is not the best team that Baylor has had in a while, but this is one of the best programs in the country.
Yeah. And if this game is in Seattle, the outcome might have gone differently. Like those 10 points, the difference might have been just home court advantage in this one.
What was the foul differential? Yeah, they shot 29 free
Oh
throws to
no,
15 for UW. Like that's the sort of thing that happens when you're playing on the road.
stupid bullshit.
Yeah, that's college basketball, man. It's still the same. There's more points, but it's still that. Another true road game in non-conference for the Huskies coming up on Friday as they head to Pullman to take on the Cougars, who finished last year 19 and 15, but dealt with the typical roster exodus. Uh, they Their leading returning scorer is post Indy Okafor, who averaged 5.6 points per game last season. He's also their tallest player at 6'9". Sophomore Tomas Thristarson and Boise State transfer Emmanuel Ugbo are averaging 15 points per game so far to lead the team. They're two of 8 international players on the roster, 7 from Europe. Cougs opened with a home loss to Idaho and a 16-point loss at Davidson in the Splash Brothers series before getting their first win Monday over St. Thomas. It was better than you think, St. Thomas. However good you think St. Thomas is. On Tuesday, they host a competitive Southern team that went 15 and 3 in SWAC play last year under Kevin Johnson. No, not that one. They faced a brutal schedule to start the year, losing by 32 at Arkansas and 18 at Marquette before returning home to host a pair of non-Division I teams. All right, that brings us back to UW football and a look ahead to Saturday as they take on Purdue as 16.5-point favorites. Boilermakers, stop me if you've heard this before, they are winless in Big Ten play, 2-8 overall under first-year head coach Barry Odom, who replaced Husky defensive coordinator Ryan Walters after spending 2 years at UNLV that culminated in a top 25 team last year. Purdue beat Ball State 31-0, Southern Illinois 34-17, and have lost 8 in a row since, including a non-conference game at Notre Dame. But there have been several close calls in there. They took 2013 to lead to the fourth quarter before giving up 2 unanswered TDs in, I have not written down which game that was. They led Rutgers 24-21 with 4:43 left, but surrendered 2 late field goals, the game winner with 1 second remaining, and most impressively forced Michigan to run out the final 26 minutes after scoring to get within 21-16 at the Big House 2 weeks ago. They then came home last week to lose 34-10 at home to Ohio State. Third-year sophomore Ryan Brown is a first-time starter. He's 11th in the conference with 6.7 yards per attempt, second with 8 interceptions and 13th overall in QBR. Watch out, they do play his backup Malachi Singleton regularly as a dual threat option. So, someone who sort of runs a bit of a wildcat, but is a threat to pass out of that. Michael Jackson III has doubled their next highest receiver with 53 catches, but averaging an unusually low 8.9 yards per reception, has not been able to moonwalk to more yak. Nitro Tuggle is the big play threat and the only receiver.
Nitro Tuggle is all-time name.
That's a great one with more than 2 TDs. You better be a big play threat if your name is Nitro Tuggle. You can't be just moving the chains. Their starting running back, Devin Mockabee, suffered a season and therefore career-ending ankle injury on October 25th. Sophomore Antonio Harris has been the primary back since then, hasn't been able to maintain his 5.7 yards per carry in a primary role. Granted that those 2 games were against Michigan and Ohio State. Their defense is allowing a Big Ten high 8.8 yards per pass attempt and 13.9 yards per completion. They have given up at least 280 yards passing 5 times this season, including 390 for Luke Altmaier and 359 for Ethan Kaliakmanis. So this is a situation where let's hope the weather is good on Saturday.
Did you struggle with Ethan Kaliakmanis? We've been saying this man's name for so long.
Not Kaliakmanis. I'm good on that. I was remembering whether it was Ethan or Athen. Where the pronunciation was.
I was about to take a Kyle Monungai victory lap against you in fantasy, which granted he's been a pretty good fantasy player.
But he scored a
because you were like, "Are you sure he's good?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm sure Kyle Monungai is good." And he scored a touchdown, but then had like 26 yards on Sunday. So I was like,
well, rumors of DeAndre Swift's demise were greatly exaggerated. Not that it again helped me because I played Rashad White instead.
He didn't do much of anything.
He got some points late, but not enough. 0.14 inches of rain forecast currently on Saturday. So
that's not bad.
Let's hope for the low end. And it looks like more in the overnight than about a 40% chance of rain during the game window, give or take.
I mean, this is the game that the Huskies should win easily. And I
Yeah.
do think after last week, I would be quite surprised. Just the combination of that loss and Ryan Walters' revenge game, like
I am still surprised the line is that high given the Huskies' health. So John Coleman, like we said, Jed Fish hopeful, but said it's going to, kind of take all week doing treatment. Denzel Boston also questionable. We kind of glossed over the fact that Denzel Boston ankle injury and a punt return and was in there, but severely limited in
the amount of time I've spent this year stressed about Denzel Boston and saying things like, no, Denzel, which was all the more reason that you probably shouldn't have thrown deep to him on a very crucial 3rd and 6.
Probably not. I think the people were like, how is Denzel Boston playing on punt returns? Like, is his chances of getting hurt on those that much greater than his chances of getting hurt if you're just like throwing him a bubble screen at the line? I don't know that I really buy that they are. And I think part of the message from Saturday is, again, the Huskies still like they changed punters. Jack McAllister's actually punting for Purdue. Will be punting back at Husky Stadium on Saturday. They tried changing punters, didn't take. Still very bad at punting. And they were constantly in a field position deficit all day on Saturday. And that, I think, was a huge factor in the game, too. They could never flip it.
But Purdue's 98th defensively. And
I mean, where was Wisconsin a week? No, they were better than that.
Wisconsin was not that bad.
They were like 66th.
And after that game, they ranked 29th. Like,
real
Wisconsin's defense is not that bad of a defense.
Okay.
I mean, they gave up 21 to Oregon and 10 to us. And I think of those 21 to Oregon, some of it was garbage too.
Yeah.
So Wisconsin's defense is a little like the degree of how bad the loss was to the season was catastrophic. In an isolated game.
I mean, the Huskies didn't drop that far in FPI, to your point.
No, and teams. I mean, also like I was looking at that on Monday, and I was like, how far they dropped 3 spots? I want to say.
I don't know, the 26th now. So
I think it was 3 spots. Teams just don't drop. They don't show the up and down once it gets to Tuesday. There were a few teams that went way up and a few teams that went way down. I think BYU dropped like 10 plus spots or something. But I don't know. You just don't move that far in FBI because of one game for the most part. So I don't know. They should win this game comfortably. Especially
a game where you do have better stats than your opponent. They did pull off the Jed Fish special of outgaining your opponent and losing.
Yeah. You should call that a fish.
Guy.
It is crazy that Big Ten has the top 3 teams in FPI.
Yes. Percentage chances of victory. Look, you just can't deal with legacy programs like Indiana football, okay?
Notice that I have not said going at Indiana is one of those places. Like, yes, right now with Kurt Signetti, but we'll see. I don't know. 80%.
Wow. You're really down.
I actually think that they have 100% chance of winning this game. If we are there and they are not winning this game, like those fans might storm the field and not in a good way.
Like, no. We didn't storm against Oregon when Jimmy Lake punted on.
That's a different situation. To what fans are going to be left at this game, because I don't think it's going to be great. I think there's going to be the lowest conference crowd of the year.
I was going to say 85%, but I am concerned about the injuries. So I'm going to drop it to 82%.
I'm going to drop it down to 78.
Oh, wow.
77%.
You can always stay 5% apart.
They're going to win.
All right. We talked about it at the beginning. Sunday, SoFi Stadium. The DVOA Bowl is coming. It was the 4th in the last 3 seasons. 2nd of those involving Mike McDonald. The other being Ravens 49ers. I believe on a Sunday night in 2023 that Baltimore dominated. The
Ravens 49ers?
Yeah.
That was on Thanksgiving night.
Oh, you're right. Of course.
I will never forget it. It was the moment like we hired Mike McDonald and I was like, yeah, I remember. Pepperidge Farm remembers.
It wasn't the time that the Seahawks went to Baltimore. And,
well, that too.
Like
that too is the same season.
I'm aware.
Yeah, no, but the way that they just dismantled Brock Purdy in that game, it was a massacre.
Were you surprised that Brock Purdy didn't play at all on Sunday?
No.
I don't know.
First off, Mac Jones is better.
Mac Jones did play well. He wasn't the problem, but they just could not stop the Rams. The first DVOA Bowl involving the Seahawks since Week 17 in 2015, when they dominated the nothing to play for Arizona Cardinals to finish number one in DVOA and hang the banner. These are the top two NFC teams in point differential. Only the Colts are better in the NFL. The Rams are already ahead of their differential in any season since 2018 that ended in a Super Bowl loss, including a better point differential right now than their 2021 Super Bowl champion team that you like to insist was a fraud.
Hold on. I just want to say something because I am nothing if not about the facts.
Okay.
And I am willing to say this is a good Rams team. This is a great Rams team and led by somehow at the stage of his career, Matt Stafford playing his best season.
We'll talk about that in a second.
So this is not universal hate for Matt Stafford.
Of course.
That was hate for Matt Stafford
it is
when
universal
he was actually
to
not that
your
good.
refusal to say his name.
That is true. But what I'm saying, I'm not denying Matt Stafford in this season because he has been excellent.
Their losses came 33-26 at Philadelphia, 26-23 at home versus the Niners in overtime. They avenged that with the blowout win in Santa Clara Sunday. The biggest difference between these two teams in DVOA is special teams, where the Seahawks have an enormous advantage over the Rams. So Stafford's stats, given that he is he the MVP frontrunner at this point?
No, he is not, good sir. It is Drake May.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
I guess that does check out. His stats are not as different from recent past seasons as you would think that they are. Like his completion percentage is his highest with the Rams, and his yards per attempt is the highest. But the most meaningful difference is just 2 interceptions so far, and then his sack rate is his lowest since 2013. So obviously throughout his Rams career. But then the big reason he's in the MVP discussion, besides how good the Rams are, he's second to Drake May, is that his touchdown rate is far and away the highest of his career this season. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. They're also just he's sixth in EPA plus CPOE composite because of the fact that he's not providing much value on the ground. But the Rams do have the second best EPA per play on dropbacks, behind, of course, your Seattle Seahawks. And they're also just passing more. They've got the fourth highest pass rate in neutral situations this season per RBSDM.com after ranking below average in that stat last season, which is kind of interesting.
Are we afraid that Sean McVay is evolving?
I think we should be a little bit. I don't know if he's going for fourth downs.
Okay.
I don't know if the bot has acquired that ability yet. Let me double check on that though. Team fourth down decision making. Gonna need a pause to let the graphic load on the rbsdm.com website. Anything you want to talk about while we're filling here?
I mean, basically, what you're talking about is like
they are average.
You know what? He's added the most on pass attempts that he has of anybody in the league. And so by being able to, some of the other stats that you're talking about not being as high, he's doing this at an extraordinary volume. So,
I mean, that's the difference compared to Sam Darnold. Like, obviously, he's not doing it at a higher volume than, I don't know, is he doing it at a higher volume than Drake May?
I mean, the expected points added on pass attempts, like his EPA from pass attempts, is number 1 in the league. And Drake May is number 3. So it seems to me like it's basically like they have turned Matt Stafford and they're giving him like a Dak Prescott like volume. And it's working right now. And it's something that I'm not sure if he was capable of doing before. And yeah, sack rate is excellent. Like he's throwing touchdowns. He's not throwing picks. He's kind of doing it all at this moment.
Exactly. To your point, it is kind of fascinating that this is happening after in September, there was a great panic over Matthew Stafford's elbow. And instead of like babying him, they've gone harder than ever to the pass game. Part of that is because they have upgraded at receiver. Puka Nacua is averaging a career high 9.8 yards per target, leads the NFL with 40 first downs and 79 targets. Right behind him with 78 targets is Devontae Adams, who's only catching 54% of them, but his 7.3 yards per target probably understates his performance because he has an unusual number of short touchdowns, which is someone with Kyron Williams on my fantasy team I have definitely taken note of. His last 6 touchdowns have all come from inside the 5-yard line. Dallas Goedert is the only other player with more than 3 all season. So this also plays into Stafford's career high touchdown, right?
Just wait till he gets a load of Nehemiah Pritchett.
The tight ends have not been as big of a part of the passing game because Adams and Nacua are hoarding the targets, but they have used a lot of jumbo personnel in recent weeks. Tyler Higbee, our old friend Colby Parkinson, and Davis Allen were all over 50% of snaps last week when Adams left early due to an oblique injury. McVay told reporters he will be surprised if Adams doesn't play on Sunday. So, it sounds a little bit precautionary in that situation where they were up by so much. They also have been working Terrence Ferguson into the mix. Amazing that he's still been able to overcome that knee injury that he suffered in the final play of the game in Seattle against the Huskies.
Oh my God, this
still
guy.
Wait, which knee was it again?
It was both. Any and all 3. It would be very nice to beat him.
Be nice to beat Tyler Higbee. Career high success rate for Kyron Williams, who's averaging 4.5 yards per carry. Brock Corum is
Blake Corum. You're talking the Michigan running back?
Yes.
I literally had no idea who you were talking about. Was it Brock Modem, like a college basketball player?
Washington State, yes. It was also a standout at Summer League for many years. I don't know if he's still playing basketball.
How old are you?
Troublingly.
That one was Blake Corum played us in the national championship game, if you recall. I drafted him in every fantasy league last year, and he did absolutely nothing.
I've got him as a...
Do you? As a Kyron Williams handcuff to not get touchdowns?
Yes. Brock Modem's still going and playing professionally in Japan in the B League.
Great.
Cougar legend, Brock Modem.
Anyway, Blake Corum.
This is what happens when I don't write his name in the notes. Balanced defense ranks third against both dropbacks and rushes in EPA per play. They're forcing turnovers on 16% of their drives, which is the third highest, largely fueled by recovering 8 fumbles, tied for the most in the league. This I thought was interesting. They're allowing more yards per attempt on passes than the Seahawks, but they have a much better success rate on those plays on 3rd and 4th down, which is why their EPA per play is better than the Seahawks. The Seahawks are only 10th in EPA per play defense on passes. So, probably in part the large amount of garbage time we've seen
being
the last
up by
couple of weeks.
30 points every game.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fascinating to see them because I do feel like they're sort of opposite ends of the same coin. Like the teams look very similarly in a lot of ways in what they do. And it's funny.
Philosophically, these are both teams that, the offense and what they want to do, especially in terms of passing out of heavy formations, is very similar.
It's definitely the future of football.
So what I do think is interesting is what is the point where you just let teams run? Because I didn't see any of the Eagles-Packers game last night. Did you watch this one?
I did.
Because it sounded what I was reading on social media about the Packers or the Eagles defense in this game was basically they're showing the Packers light boxes and encouraging them to run because they're scared of getting passed on. Not that the Packers were successfully able to pass at any point. When they attempted
if you have the Eagles defensive line, that's a lot easier thing to do. And
True.
And I think the weather was a factor in that one as well. It was very, very cold there.
But that should make you
but
want to take away the run rather than take away the pass. So that's part of my question is do you strategically, as the Seahawks, need to stay in your nickel and dime defense and just make the Rams run instead of pass?
So we're assuming Devontae Adams is going to be healthy in this game also.
Based on what Sean McVay said, yes.
Okay. I think the answer to your question is NFL coaches are really stupid. So the amount that it affects an NFL coach, no matter who it is, to give up yards on the ground is like an emotional punishment to them. And if there's a team running all over them, you know what I mean? You could gain 6 yards per play passing the ball, and an NFL coach would be fine with that consistently, literally every play, 6 yards, 6 yards, 6 yards. They'll be okay with that. If you run the ball for 6 yards, an NFL coach will perish. So I think it's almost taking advantage of the psychological fear of giving up runs. And I was thinking about that on Sunday, where I was like, that's why it works so well, I think. And also just like we haven't had the 2, 3, 4 years to adjust to it necessarily. And like when you start doing something more often than anybody else is doing it, and a lot of people are doing this now, it just takes a second to basically be like, here's how we counteract that. But it's in response to the two high safeties. That's just how the NFL works. Like something happens and then you pivot to something else, and there's going to be a response to this. But
I mean, I think it does. You can trace it back to the Patriots during the Gronkowski, Aaron Hernandez days. Like that was the strength of those teams, is that, they were a dangerous passing team out of formations that are traditional run tell. So,
but I think when I think of the Rams, I don't think of them as like a purely passing team, and they've run the ball quite a bit with Kyren Williams and Blake Corum. It's not like they're not running the ball necessarily.
But that's partially because of the fact that they have been leading in a lot of these games, which, and the contrast between them and the Seahawks, I suppose, is when they get a team down, they can put them away by running the ball in a way that the Seahawks have struggled to do outside of Sunday.
I will be very fascinated in this one to see how Mike Macdonald handles this defense. I guess what I would say, or this offense, what I would say is my confidence is higher in Mike Macdonald than it is in the Rams offense. And I think the Seahawks defense, like, it's pretty unlike anything that the Rams have faced this year. They've played good defenses. They did go on the road and lose to the Eagles, but like their last handful of weeks is the Niners twice. Where are they at DVOA defensively? I would assume fine. The Jags, the Ravens, the Saints, which is the Seahawks have actually faced. They haven't faced good offenses necessarily, but they've faced some very good defenses along the way and still dominated those teams. And my confidence is just a little bit higher. It is funny to see that, where it's like the Seahawks are the better offensive team, and then the Rams in this one, like points for, points against, is like they're about the same, but it's just like more offense, and they've given up a few more points, considering that it is a Mike Macdonald team. But
Niners are 26th in defense.
26th defensively. Yeah. So, I mean, the best defense that they played was probably week 3, the Eagles. And it's been a while, like that since they have played a very good defense. And I think Mike Macdonald and this defense right now, just watching them on Sunday against a Cardinals team that was not a bad team, and the way that they are just so punishing in every single facet of the game.
They have played against the number 1 defensive DVOA team, by the way.
Who's that?
Houston Texans in week 1.
Yeah, we did that too. We did that also, but that was also, week 1, and they won it by 5 points.
Philadelphia's defensive DVOA is not very good.
Okay, so they haven't faced a good defense in quite a while.
It appears so.
But the way that Seahawks defense was fast and punishing, it is just an extraordinarily difficult thing to deal with as an offense. And Matthew Stafford, at 37 years old, like they're going to get to him. They're not going to not hit Matthew Stafford in this game. They are going to hit Matthew Stafford, and he's probably going to take sacks. He's probably going to have a turnover in it as well. I know that they are both very, very good teams right now, but it feels to me like, given the way that the Seahawks have dominated pretty good teams these last handful of weeks, I will believe it when I see it that somebody slows them down. And the same goes offensively, like what they have been able to do. I mean, Jackson Smith-Njigba's off the charts as far as best receiver in the NFL right now, and they're running the ball a little bit better. It is hard for me to imagine the Seahawks not moving in this game, not doing their thing. So I feel like they're not favored, but I think the Seahawks should be favored. They're number 1 in DVOA. They're at a closer to historic level than the Rams are right now.
They are number 1 in DVOA. They are not number 1 in. They are number 1 in Dave, I guess. Yeah, they are, but close enough that I think the Rams would probably be favored by virtue of home field. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not willing to go so far as to say the wrong team is favored here. I definitely see scenarios where like the Rams, both teams know what the other is doing, and that advantages the Rams a little more than the Seahawks because, well, your point is fair that they haven't played any good defenses. The Seahawks haven't faced any defenses that have schemed them correctly, and I think the Rams have a better chance of that. That's what I would tell you.
You don't think the Texans have been able to scheme them correctly?
I think they were still playing them for the run.
Please, I say please play us for the run.
No, I'm saying the Rams will play them for the pass.
Please play them for the pass. I think they are very comfortable. They want to run the ball. Make no mistake. The Seahawks want to run the ball, but
that's my concern. That's the fear.
What is the play action rate for both teams? Do we have that play action and motion rate?
I'd have to go digging for it.
The Seahawks offense. Sam Darnold was 10 for 12 last week. He didn't have to do anything in that game, and they were up 35-0.
I agree. I fear at some point he may have to do something.
He's done that too. We're going to come out of this game with people being like, oh, the Seahawks are the best team in the league. And I do think this might be the game. Somebody will mention Jackson Smith and Jigba. It'd be like, what?
The Rams have, no, I guess it's not. The Rams are averaging 0.63 EPA per pass out of 13 personnel, according to Sumersports.com. That's pretty good. Although the Seahawks are averaging 0.75 EPA per play out of 12 personnel. So
they've just been dominant. So
yeah.
I think this is the game when the Seahawks are going to be anointed on Sunday. They've got the afternoon slot. It's like I thought it would happen against Washington. It didn't quite. But you have to go beat a really good team for that to happen. And people are pretty aware that these are probably the two best teams in the league at the moment.
Yeah, I think so.
Going into LA and winning this game. Have they played a close game on the road? Kind of.
Depends if you count Jacksonville.
The Cardinals game. None of these were close though.
Yeah, the Cardinals is the closest.
Again, until I have seen otherwise, I will not believe that this is a team that is going to be slowed down in any way. And while the Rams are playing very well right now, they're not doing things that are out of pocket for the Rams. Percentage chance of victory?
45%.
Oh, it's like 58%.
Well, we're going to have a reckoning about this next week.
We sure are. We're going to have a reckoning about this next week. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be fun, no matter what. I think that's the main thing, is playing in a DVOA Bowl, the place that the Seahawks are in. It's very exciting to be at, and being there on Sunday. The little bit of, I considered doing a Mariners hot takes about the Seahawks, about how it's currently the year 2012 again. It's exactly what it felt like. And having a stadium where like there were some Cardinals fans there, but like there were 5 of them. And having a stadium that is all on the same page and rocking is like, people are going to think twice for the rest of the year when traveling to a road game in Seattle.
I hope so.
On that note,
thanks for listening.
Thanks.
Hello and welcome to
you. What is your problem with the Christmas creep? On like a practical level, what about it bothers you?
The Christmas season should be a special limited time of the year, and that when the Christmas season expands, you're no longer as compelled to enjoy the Christmas season every single day. And it's less necessary because I'm looking out the window. It's sunny and bright right now. I don't need Christmas to get me through this. I need Christmas to get me through when it's the darkest and the coldest part of the year. And also the NFL playoffs, I suppose.
So what is the moment that you're okay with Christmas starting? Right after Thanksgiving?
As soon as you have completed your Thanksgiving meal.
That is the second that Christmas is. You and Marco have
You're gonna need to consume pie. It's got to include dessert. It can't just be after you've eaten the dinner. It's got to be dessert as well. But then the switch is flipped and it can become Thanksgiving,
that is the
or it can
second
become
that it
Christmas, I
happens.
should say.
But okay,
Because
so
it's also giving Thanksgiving its due respect is a holiday.
Thanksgiving gets its due respect as a holiday, but there's not the anticipatory feeling of Thanksgiving that there is for Christmas. Does that make sense?
Of course not. But I'm saying if you include Thanksgiving within the anticipation for Christmas, it becomes a subservient holiday.
But that day is all about Thanksgiving is a 1 day. It's a 2 day holiday. Ultimately, actually, no. I'll say Thanksgiving is a 4 day holiday.
It's a
maybe
5 day holiday.
Wednesday,
Thanksgiving Eve.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah.
That gives, but then the Saturday, Sunday is that transitional phase though, because
Agreed.
you're also accepting. But November 11th, well, it is Veterans Day. I'm like, it's not a holiday day.
What kind of a holiday could it possibly be on November 11th? It's impossible to conceive of the very notion.
It's more like a mild medium hot. Here's how I think about the
your
Christmas
kids
season.
got 2 days off for Veterans Day?
They got a little mini Thanksgiving for Veterans Day.
Pretty wild.
Is Marco in the house? Marco, can you
Is he
come
going to
here?
come on to talk about his Thanksgiving feeling?
He is the strongest. It's like literally all of our worst tendencies, or maybe just the owlness of it all. All is funneled straight through Marco, and he is militant about it. He's militant about many things, but he is. Marco, come here. We need to talk about Christmas and Thanksgiving. All right, he says.
I mean, you personifying it as the Christmas creep is probably a factor with your children.
Okay, Marco, come here. You're hold on. You're on a podcast.
Yeah.
Don't be nervous. You know. Okay, you've been on many of these. This is not even. It's just like the podcast stuff. So
All right.
there's nothing to be concerned about. Can you talk into the microphone though? Come here.
What?
Okay. You're against the idea of Christmas creeping into November, the Christmas season, right?
Yes.
Why?
Because I feel like Thanksgiving should have its period and Christmas should have its period, not just Christmas all the way through Thanksgiving.
You know, at least they're teaching the kids something in school these days.
Is there anybody else who agrees with you about this in your class or anything?
I don't know.
It's not a thing that you're talking about at school?
No, it's not.
I don't know. Okay,
Because
but
they're not recording
don't you
enough
think
podcasts.
If Christmas is good,
Mhm.
isn't more Christmas better?
No, not really.
Do you
I
feel
agree.
like it like devalues the Christmas season if we get excited about Christmas right now?
Not really.
You really want Thanksgiving to get its due.
Yes.
First off, you need that turkey up in the yard. The blow up turkey is in the yard, correct?
Yeah. It
Okay.
is.
I would be disappointed if it wasn't. So
Do you remember why we got that blow up turkey?
No.
Okay. We got it in early November 2020. It was a celebratory turkey.
we get a puppy in early November 2024. It was not a celebratory puppy.
You have anything else to add, Marco?
No, not really.
Okay. All right. Are you having a good Veterans Day?
Yeah.
Okay, you could go. Bye.
Thanks, Marco.
It really feels like Thanksgiving is Otis due. So, okay, think about it from this perspective. Because
Do you think you're gonna out logic me on this?
no, this isn't. It's not. There's no logic. They're literally. You can do whatever you want here. There are no rules about this sort of thing. But December 1st is not the same Christmas season as December 21st is. Would you agree with that?
I'm sorry, what? It's
The
not
way
as
that you
Christmas
feel-
season?
Like the amount of
Sure.
Christmas that
Yeah.
it feels peaks on Christmas Eve. That's the most Christmas moment.
Without question.
And so Christmas is more of like a roller coaster rather than, don't you think?
Coaster?
Yeah,
So
like
you're saying that you're saying
you're
it's a
building
one
up to it.
it's a one hill roller coaster.
No,
Because
no, it
roller
comes down
coasters
really
actually-
hard after. There's a big drop post Christmas. You don't think so?
No, I don't disagree with that, but roller coasters go up and down. That's the nature of the metaphor of a roller coaster. Do you not understand the metaphor?
Listen to this. It
Okay.
does it goes up and down because you get a little like rebump of New Year's in there. All of a sudden you're like way down and you're like, okay, New Year's, and then you're at the bottom and then the ride is over.
I suppose so. Then January 2nd, you wake up and the world is cold and dark. Hard to dispute. I'm not sure what this has to do with your specific argument.
So it's like a rise to Christmas. And so you start that right after Halloween. It's not like the end of it, but like you're gradually getting more toward Christmas to that point on December 24th when you've reached the most Christmas.
That
so is
process
December
starts
higher?
Is December higher than November?
Well, no, December 24th is a higher degree of Christmas than December 10th.
Sure.
So it's hard to just be like, this is Christmas, this isn't Christmas. Does that make sense? Because you delineate yourself. You're not like, I'm full on 100% Christmas the moment that the pie has been ingested.
I concede that, yes, there is a continued ramp up from that point, but that's the beginning of the ramp up.
Okay. Well, so basically the Christmas creep is we're just seeing a different moment to start ramping up. Warm 6.9 sees it the way I do also.
I don't doubt that.
They started like this weekend, right? It was this weekend. Yesterday? Apparently it's November 10th. That's the day. Yeah, you can ask Delilah.
That's even a stranger choice than starting November 1st, in my opinion.
I agree. Okay, well, a Merry Christmas season to all of you who out there who celebrate early.
And a happy Thanksgiving season to all of you who don't.
But also a happy Thanksgiving season to all of you who do, because they can be in unison.